Welcome everyone to the Chuck Jones Creativeside chat. And yes, for the first time ever, I am wearing a hat for the show. Why? Because we have a legendary artist today who has blended sports and pop culture in an amazing way and has these really ridiculously cool styles. And because he's so into sports, especially Major League Baseball, I thought how apropos that I wear my team, the Cubs, as we have finally won the championship years ago, and I would wear this all day long. So for Preston today, I have donned the Daffy Duck jersey. I have donned the Chicago Cubs. I've got Bulls and stuff all around. Wait till you meet this guy. Not only is he just a very cool person, he's extremely talented. So without further ado, I give you the legend already, Sir Preston. Welcome, Preston, to the Chuck Jones Creativeside chat.
How you doing, Ben? Thanks for having me here. I never had a Sir Preston, so I'm pretty impressed.
Right, I kind of knighted you, right? I'm not a queen. I mean, sometimes I might act like one, but I went ahead and knighted you, so you are a sir. I had the pleasure of getting to know you as I hadn't met you before this week, and just even briefly touching on where you've been, how you got here, everything that you have going on, especially in this last year. And I was totally blown away, man. I came back off that kind of introduction, our pre-interview, totally inspired on stuff. And, you know, amazed and impressed at the same time. So I'm looking forward to having everybody feel all those feels as well as we get along. And, you know, when we do these Chuck Jones Creativeside chats, and I'm going to get to this once we intro, but I'll tease with, you have done something, and both of us have the physical proof that hasn't been done since Chuck, which is amazing how you pulled this all together. So what I wanted to know, and what everybody loves to know as we do these kind of things, is what kind of, like, how did Chuck influence you in what you're doing now in creativity?
I mean, we talked a bit about this in the pre-show, and you asked me about that, and I went back and thought about myself as an artist. So, a lot of artists, all their life wanted to be an artist and mimicked other artists and created styles and everything. I kind of meandered through life a little bit, and in my life, I almost became a licensed artist before I felt I was actually an artist. And that's probably very different backwards from a lot of people. I was given an opportunity to be licensed with Major League Baseball. And then for a long time, it was a process to become an artist, to research what other people are doing and get caught up. I never went to art school, never took an art class. So I had a great eye and I had a great skill set already. And I didn't really know I was honing it. So when you asked the Chuck Jones question, it wasn't that I was the same as the rest of everyone out there. I grew up watching cartoons as a kid and then stopped watching as an adult or as a teenager, and then I had to get reintroduced back to it and look at it from a different lens as an artist. So for me, Chuck Jones himself, it was a great artist, but be able to extend his brand, extend his artwork, and being asked to do that is my honor, and that's my inspiration, is to continue that legacy of these characters that I was a kid with and I grew up with.
It's kind of like when you grow up, but you mature, but you still get to be a kid again when you're an adult and enjoy all the things that you couldn't afford or do when you were a kid. And it's that much better now that you're an adult and embracing all of those things. And what I found fascinating too was, you know, in the pop culture, what was it about pop culture that just grabbed you as kind of, you know, some go into like a fine art thing or they express themselves in other ways, and you really gravitated toward this pop art, you know, or pop culture type of deal. What was it that grabbed you about that?
Well, to roll back also a little bit. So my art I have two distinct styles. It's minimalist and it's graphic design. It's very clean, very organized, very crisp lines, and I have sketch art. What was the question again? Quickly.
Like pop culture, you know, when you went into create, and you're blending pop culture with baseball.
Oh yeah.
Go for it.
So I think the minimalist art, it kind of, I grab moments and spots of the stadium, of things that I remember and that will trigger memories and things. That's as you see the Cubs piece in the side of me, it's Wrigley Field. Ivy and brick is all you need to know that it's Wrigley Field. So to be able to bring that into pop culture, for me, just having a very distinct memory of these things, Star Wars, and sort of losing grasp of it over since my childhood, revisiting it, and it was the trigger, that one moment in an episode of What's Opera Doc, or what's one moment in Baseball Bugs, which could capture and bring that emotion back. And that's what I try to do as an artist. I don't. There's so many. There's so many great artists that can draw Bugs Bunny or draw players perfectly with great execution, and you're one of them. You know, you draw these scenes with such texture and color and everything, the backgrounds. And mine's more just, hey, if I can draw a dot and it brings you back to your memories, your brain fills in all the right gaps. That's what I love to do. So that's what I'm doing with pop culture. Is if I can just show a scene, one moment in an episode, one hand holding a baseball, or and we'll show some of my other Chuck Jones work that's on the website. But just be able to draw and capture those emotions is really what I'm trying to do.
Well, and I love, first of all, you are in design, right? And so like there's a love for both, because you draw, you sketch, you paint, and you design. And that's after my own heart, because I do the same thing. So there's like learning and understanding that about what you're doing and how you do it. I love the minimalist approach, because I think you're, excuse me, absolutely right, where if you can boil things down to the simplest, right?
The essence,
pull
yes.
something out, yes, man, you don't need all the clutter. You don't need all the stuff that goes around it. And you pull that off with, you know, an insane composition, insane execution. And what I wanted to say as we kind of start to talk about your styles and your art is we do have, for everybody watching on Facebook, hello, and then on Zoom, I want to let you know that if you've got questions for Preston, I said Sir Preston because I don't know what the S is yet, but he told me to Google it, but I don't have the time yet. So
you didn't have time, okay.
All right, so I said Sir, aha, there was my S. If you've got questions for Preston, you can pop it in Facebook. They will send me the question. I can relay that to Preston. Or if you're in Zoom, go ahead and put it in the chat. Love to hear from you. Preston, love to hear from you, answer your questions. And then also the full catalog of what we're showing tonight is on the chuckjonescatalog.com. There's the link right there, chuckjonescatalog.com. It's S-Preston-Limited-Edition-Art. And also, if you go to the chuckjonescatalog.com, you can see right there on the left-hand side, scroll down not too far, and you'll be able to see all this stuff. What I wanted to show, as we were talking about this minimalist stuff, first of all, this is for Tashi. Tashi is also a Cubs fan, so he'll be very happy that we're talking Cubs. Can you show, we're going to start with a Chuck piece and go for number one, and it's the What's Opera Doc that you had mentioned. So, Scott, can you pull that up for me? The image number one, and let's show that. Yes, dude.
Yeah.
That's
again.
It.
If you know this episode, you know exactly what's going on, right? What's your thoughts on like where's your memories come from this?
It's that final scene as he's walking off, and Bugs is like, you know, what did you expect in an opera, right? A happy ending.
Yeah.
And it is brilliant, because this whole thing of him going off and the rays that you have, I love the shadow, because you get that effect even in the beginning when he's throwing the lightning and the thunder and you don't see him, right?
Yes.
And you were able to pull it off in the silhouette. I love the fact that even how you compose the thing, where my main focal point is on my top third, right? And then my eyes drawn all the way down. If you're like even before I started learning design and whatnot, I didn't totally understand why I liked what I liked until I started to understand why artists do that. And I think you pulled it off brilliantly.
I loved how you said that I'm a graphic designer and an artist at the same time, because when you go into building websites or building advertisements, it's important that you draw an emotion within 3 seconds. You're flipping through a magazine and you need to be able to use color, shape, and size, composition to get the customer to go, oh, I want to check that website out, or I want to buy that Coke bottle. You know, that's what comes from the graphic design world. So translating it down into the art world to help you draw the line, but create a different emotion of your childhood. That's really how I think, and I love what your response, because that's really what my pieces are trying to do.
Well, and I think you pulled it off. And I want to show number 3, Scott. Can you show me the pop culture baseball? So even in something like this, for one, I love gradients that go color. Forget gradient to color to white. That always annoys me. but like those rich colors, and teal is like my thing. So you're speaking my colors in here, even if it's not my team. But I love the whole, like, I love the composition of this. I don't need to see everything. I have that whole feeling. And man, your color choice is dead on. Like, in all the pieces that you have, I love the richness of your color choices because it evokes the emotion,
Thank you.
And
blue sky is baseball to me. You need that crisp blue sky. That's it's an important part of this whole thing. Everyone's like, some people just say, why don't you fill the whole space? And like, no, that's part of where your eye draws. That's where you create the emotion of using negative space. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
The story behind actually this piece. So I did 5 pieces for Chuck Jones, just certain episodes. We saw that one and this one. This was actually just baseball bugs throwing the ball without any logos on him.
Right.
And I remember coming up, so 2020 was going to be the All-Star game, and I'm a mascot artist also, so I love drawing mascots. And every year, whoever the main mascot of that team at the All-Star game would come to my booth, we'd take a bunch of pictures, like, wait a second, the Dodgers don't have a mascot. We're like, what are we going to do? Like, I have a huge mascot art wall. That's a huge part of it. And then one of my friends were like, you know what? You have Bugs Bunny as a mascot. Why don't you, like, he's right there. Just throw a Dodger jersey on, throw the All-Star game, and let's see what that works. And this is really antithesis, whatever that word is. This is how it all began, is sort of merging Chuck Jones with the MLB, just smashing these 2 brands together in a very artistic way, not just jersey. It's in using my art as with the MLB.
Well, absolutely. And we got questions coming in from Facebook. And before I get to this one, that whole blending of Chuck's with the MLB, I'm going to pull mine out. That sounds easy, but it's not. So we both have, as we were discussing Tuesday, and we were like, I have those cards. So yeah, you've got them. I've got them. The original, like, go ahead. You're on the, yes.
Yeah, the full set.
It's so many cards.
And you told me that that these are Chuck Jones's pieces. These are one of his. He actually did all of this whole card set.
He did the card set, and like all of these. I mean, thank you, Brad Seymour of the Windy City Bulls, for finding these and giving these to me. He did all this stuff, right? And so he was blending just as you were and pulled that in, and was doing that very same thing, which is why I find it totally fascinating that you're really the first one in 20 whatever years, right? These are from the 90s, so even longer than that.
Longer than that. So it's funny how you like your original question of Chuck Jones, what does it mean to me? A lot of it was, once I started diving into it, the feedback was really amazing. And that was one of the very first pieces of feedback was, oh my God, I remember the Upper Deck cards. I totally forgot about them. And now you're bringing that back to me. And that, I think, is, that's part of an important part for me working under Chuck Jones, is diving into those memories and responding to how people react to the same memory journey that I went through trying to figure this out. I remember those cereal bowl moments on Saturday morning.
Well, and so you're a tad older than me, even though you look far younger than me. And when we were growing up, pretty much around the same time, that because I had some of those cards as a kid, and I remember going to the store, and I loved Looney Tunes, right? And I remember those packs, and I didn't exactly know who Chuck Jones was. I just knew I loved the cartoons. I knew his name, and then now we have baseball cards with him on them. And Upper Deck was the thing. Like, Topps is great, right? Topps is great, but dude, when Upper Deck came out with the little shiny foil thing and glossy, oh, it was Upper Deck all the way. Like, you felt fancy if you got some Upper Deck cards, right? Yeah. So Chuck Jones is on some fancy Upper Deck cards, which just elevated, right, this whole thing. And when I saw the stuff that you were doing, and again, we've got Preston's artwork on chuckjonescatalog.com. You can see it right there. There's there's the link to take a look at his stuff. Some amazing pieces. I feel that in your stuff, and what I love about is your design sense is still true to, like, Chuck was really good at bringing the character out of the character, right?
Yes.
And I think you've captured that same thing, you know, and it's not easy to do. And so to blend those now, and where you're bringing the character, you know, out of the character into these settings, especially in sports like baseball, and I think we've got hockey and we've got some other stuff. It's just freaking brilliant. So what I wanted to say too was, and we've got a question in, so I'm going to take this first. And by the way, 1991, that's when thank you, Scott Dickin. That's when he came out with that Topps baseball card series.
Wow, yeah, height of baseball cards.
Right? So we're literally talking, I don't do math very well, but you do. So 30 years, am I right?
Correct. Correct.
You told me you were like, math was your thing. I'm like, how can you design, draw, and do math? I can design and draw, and I cannot do math. So kudos to you for elevating that whole, like, taking creativity to another level. We have a question from the audience, and it was, how do you decide which part of the scene to create from Chuck Jones films? So whatever character it might be, how do you pick that moment?
It's almost you watch it, and it's like you take notes of what I remember, the things like, and for example, the baseball bugs, there's a couple moments that are really will always stick with me, which is the Congo line, the giant bat,
Yes.
the super slow ball.
Yes.
And those things, when rewatching it, you trigger these memories, and you're trying to then I pick which one I think resonates not only to me, but if it's going to resonate to me, it's going to resonate to other people. And then if I was a sketch artist, I would have probably chosen to do the Congo line. But then as a minimalist, I had to then start zooming in and really just breaking it down. And what I decided to do with this piece is that Bugs has so many different funny and cool pitches that to have him wind up and ready to go allows you to decide which pitch he's throwing. Is it going to be the slow one, the super fast one? Is it going to, like, which one is going to throw? So it then encapsulates multiple of his pitches in that one piece.
And I love that. And you know what I wanted to bring up too, Scott, if you can bring up image 2, please, is, you know, you were mentioning, so this kind of goes in with which part do you pick, and then how do you boil that down? Let's go number 2. Yeah. So I want the What's Opera Doc number 2. There we go. So here's a sketch from Preston.
Yes.
And it kind of dovetails into what that piece that you did and designed out. I love this sketch. This is what I'm a huge fan of design, and I'm a huge fan of the actual drawing. So like in cartoons, I'm more of a fan of the production drawings than I am the cells. And so, because there's so much raw character, and you've got that in here.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Like, I love the little tiny helmet, the little dude at the bottom, and this huge giant shadow. Like, if that doesn't say, you know, what the ego of Elmer is in this cartoon, I don't know what does.
If my other piece wasn't the ending, this is the beginning. This is foreshadowing everything that's coming up. Is him. So I have a little bit of shame in this one. Is because I that's the original piece I illustrated and wanted to make, and it didn't turn out. So that's why I skipped forward to the end. So again, some sketches don't turn out. Some work as a sketch and don't work as a graphic piece. Doesn't compose well. So I actually just tossed the piece, and now it's just this is one of my work in progress drawings.
Which you can own, and think of it, you get the workout drawing at the beginning, and then you purchase the print of the end, and there's the whole cartoon in 2 pictures.
There it is.
Love it. So speaking
Does
of,
he remind you a little bit of Charles Nelson Riley?
I don't know. That was Mike.
Okay. Voice of God. God spoke to us.
It was. I was like, Preston, are we on the same? So Mike, what was that one more time? Now he's not going to say anything.
Yeah.
We called him out. All right. I don't know. Mike, if you have your question, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. Look at that. Called you out, buddy. Did you mean to unmute yourself? No, he didn't. That's what happens on live TV. All right. So Mike can ask the question if he wants. You get into MLB, and you know, you're blending this love that you have of sports with art. how did the MLB thing happen? Like, was that the first in like a sports license that kind of came to and was like, yes, we can do these?
Okay. Let me walk you through that story a bit, because it came out of nowhere. I was a graphic designer. I was doing video, I was doing a bunch of things in life, and I was sort of dumping artwork, design work, stuff that I like to do on, Tumblr, Facebook, and social media wasn't big 15 years ago. So I was just dumping these stuff up, and you get a bunch of likes one day and you're like, hey, this is a great day. I did these Minimalist Nhl Logos, where it actually started. Went up, I was on a bunch of sports sites, sold like a couple $1,000s in prints. I was like, yes, this is awesome. Got a letter from the NHL, please stop, send us a bunch of money and sign this document. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's my first foray into trademarks and licensing. I was like, yeah, I cannot do logos and make them my own style. Couple of years later, I fast forward and I went, you know what, I'm going to do this, try it again, but I'm going to do stadiums. I love baseball. I love stadiums. Each one are unique. I remember I used to play video games, and every time I was so excited to go to a ballpark because they'd always render the cool ballparks. I never been there, but I was like, hey, there's something cool there. The big wall. I want to go as Wrigley because they'd have the ivy. So I designed these minimalist ballparks. Similar story. They just took off. They're in Sports Illustrated the next day. They're in ESPN the next day. It was well shared. Made a couple $1,000s selling all the prints, and we kind of created a little business out of it. Like, hey, it'll be cool. Got another phone call. Hello, we're the MLB lawyers. We need to talk to you right away. And I was like, oh crap, we actually made a little bit more money than last time, and we have to go through this again. And then, so I was like, I have a business partner who was my left winger when I played hockey back in Canada. So he came on as a business partner. He loved the whole idea of following my dreams. So his advice was, hey, just answer the phone. Whatever they say, and let's just work through that problem. But so I picked up the phone, and they're like, Preston, this is the MLB lawyers. We love your work. We think you've done something with ballparks, with something that's evergreen. It's totally new. We want you at the All-Star game, and this is 2014. We want you to have a booth at an All-Star game, but we need to license you to actually be there because everyone needs to be licensed. So I'm going to send you over a document, and just read through everything. It says, how many factories do you have? 0. How can we inspect your facilities? I'm like, you can inspect my living room, I guess, my little Epson printer if you want to. Like, it was like, how many sales rep do you have? It's like, like the document was built for Nike to get a license, not for Preston in his living room getting a license. So anyway, so we got this document in, shared it with a couple of my licensing friends, and they're like, this never happens. The MLB never does this. Like, it was like the parameters of it was basically, we want you. So and then I called my business partner again, and he said, hey, look, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Let's just put a big smile on our face, jump in with 2 feet, and do it. And so that's what we did. And we started from ground up and bootstrapped the whole thing. And signed the document, wrote them over a big check, and just went, okay, how do we make a business out of this? And that's how it all started. And then I knew I had a great style. I had a really cool concept. I didn't really understand that I was an artist. I was a graphic artist at that time. I didn't understand what more art can come out of me. Like, is that the end? Like, the 30 ballparks, is that the end? Other sports, like I didn't know, but we just sort of explored the whole thing, and this is now 9 years later, and I own 6-7 licenses now. I work with Chuck Jones, and I get to do a lot of creative things, and learn to be an artist, essentially, or again, pull back my childhood and learn all those things that I've did all my life and become a professional at it.
So I wanted to bring up, Scott, can you bring up image number 7 for me? Image number 7, so that we can get a kind of a taste of your design aspect. So can you explain kind of what you were putting into, like, because I think you have that same sense, obviously, as we just saw in the bugs piece, and then you brought it to this.
Yeah. So if you delete the name, the number, that was added later on when I got a player's license and we were trying to create products for players. But before that, it was just the ballpark. And I believe this is probably the 5th or 6th piece that I did. And again, looking around the ballpark, focusing on what's important and what we notice. This is the outfield. It's called the outfield pavilion. So there'll be left field or right field, and they sort of have this waving rooftop in Dodger Stadium.
Yep.
And later on learned that that's supposed to mimic the waves, and the sand color is supposed to mimic the beach atmosphere of Dodger Stadium. But even if you didn't know that, you would know this on TV. You would see this. If you saw highlights from old films, it doesn't matter where in the country you are. If you're a baseball fan and you have memories of Dodger Stadium, I know for a fact that you will remember the wavy roof in the outfield. And that's sort of how I build and pick the things that are in the artwork. Not always everything that's the most popular for that ballpark is in the artwork. It's what you remember as a home fan or a visiting fan, what you remember as your experience as you went to that stadium.
So now I'm going to ask you a question from the audience. I already know what you're going to say, but I think everybody can, and you can be as neutral as possible, because I'm going to follow this up with another question. What are your favorite teams to work with?
To work with?
Yeah, like the ones that you like doing stuff with. Maybe it's the color, maybe it's the name. Yeah, it's something you're like, man, I just love working with the blank Cubs. I don't know.
I do like working with the Cubs. I'm not pandering so much in that a lot of the Midwest teams, actually, if you go to the edges, a lot of the teams, and the Yankees are going to be a stuck-up team. They're going to be a hard team to work with. They're very professional and very regimented. They're, the Dodgers and Angels too are a little that way. But the Midwest teams almost have a very homegrown, organic way of approaching business, and I really love it because they're much more creative and open to doing unique art pieces for them. The cool part is starting the All-Star game in Minnesota. Minnesota has an awesome art community. They have the whole state has a really great art base to it. So being able to start there, really. There was a lot of art fans that came to the All-Star game, whereas not all sports events, when I'm at a sports event, I'm picking and choosing, trying to find the art fans. Yep. But Minnesota had a lot, and I just feel like that's almost the epicenter of where this growth came out, because a lot of the media there understood art, and even the sports media understood art, and they were sharing it and making it big. So Midwest teams are great to work with. So yes, the Cubs are part of them.
So, Scott, put up image number 5, please, because this will basically piggyback right off what you did. Nope, that one's need 5 baseball. That one.
Yeah, so, that's me at the first All-Star game.
So you're there, and you're in Minnesota. You're doing this whole thing for the All-Star game.
Yeah.
And you're probably like you had just highlighted. You're probably out of most of where you would want to be. This was probably the best. And I don't believe in coincidences, right? So you're probably in the best position, right, at the best location to start something, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I was pinching myself the whole time. That first All-Star game, it cost thousands of dollars to send a booth. We didn't know any of this. We had to build a booth, frame all my art, get it up on the wall, grid walls, shipping, drayage, a bunch of things. It was a lot of money. And I remember that first Thursday we sold like $1,000 in art, and we're like, oh my goodness, what did we do? And I not knowing, now that I know Thursday's the preview night. Kids are all in school, or kids are all doing their thing. It's not till the weekend that it really kicks in, the All-Star weekend. And it was great, but yeah, it was a surreal experience, because I just been licensed for about 3 months at that point. And then they came by, we got tickets to the All-Star game. And I got to watch that for the first time. It was amazing, unbelievable. And I've had 100 baseball moments since then. It's pretty cool.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you is, have you been to every stadium?
Unfortunately, I have not. I'm about 19 now. of the 30. I've been to Wrigley Field. But when I started, I only went to 3 ballparks when I started this whole thing. It was my knowledge. It was just my deep love or understanding of baseball, but I hadn't actually been to these ballparks. So I'm working on it, and it's pretty hard with COVID right now, but I am working on it, trying to get to all.
Well, so you mentioned that, you've been to Wrigley Field. No, you were at Wrigley Field when this happened.
Progressive Field when that happened.
I'm sorry, Progressive. You were, but Cubs. So you went to Progressive. Is that, I don't even remember who it was. It the Indians? So you don't remember.
It was the Indians. I remember. So I'm a closet Cubs fan. I've been a Cubs fan since Henry Rowan Gardner threw that baseball in where the little kid had the super awesome arm. He got signed. Movie suddenly escapes me, and Back to Future 2 when they won. Those are the reasons why I'm a Cubs fan. So I've been always a closet Cubs fan.
We were 1 year off from the prediction.
They were 1 year, yeah.
Yes, go ahead. Anyway,
so I was watching the Cubs. They lost the first 2 games, if I remember correctly. They're down 3, and then they won game 4 and 5 and 6. I had a friend of mine who was all the time texting me, "You got to come, you got to come, you got to come. This is going to be the greatest thing in your life." And then finally, when they were going back to Cleveland, he texted me and he said, "Hey, you know what? Sitting on your butt, nothing great happens in your life. You sit on your butt." I was like, that spoke to me. Quickly Googled tickets, and they're going for whatever. And I was like, I flew to Columbus for a couple $100, slept in my car. But that resonated and was like, hey, you know what? It's a once in a lifetime to see the Cubs win. I actually kind of wanted Cleveland win because I went to game 6. That was not cheap.
No.
And then the Cubs won it. And I was like, oh man, I gotta pay for game 7 now. And I did. And it was the greatest moment of my life. I'm so glad for that advice from that friend of mine. Nothing great happens unless you get up and do it.
Yes. And you know, that kind of, it's funny that you would mention that, as kind of we morph a little bit into, you know, how you built this. Like you said, you started later, you know, you were early 40s.
I turned 40 when this whole thing started. Yeah.
All right. So you're 40 years old, you're starting out this whole new thing, right? And you didn't sit there. You took the bull by the horns, right?
Yeah.
Bull horns. And you went for it, and you started to develop these things, and you used your love and your passion for it. And what I loved about getting to know you in the pre-interview was, and you already kind of mentioned this here a little bit, you put the work in. And, you know, none of this stuff happens by accident. None of it's easy. You know, it's not like it's, I've got this thing, this cakewalk. Man, you put the work in, and not you did put the work in, you still put the work in. And that is why you are you, which I think is amazing. And for me, it's a continually inspiring thing to watch guys like you, you know, and you put the work in and you do it, and then look what comes out. And it's just a lot of hard work and a lot of pushing and some yeses, some no's and whatever, but you continue to pursue that passion. And look, there's
I got great advice from the beginning. So as an artist, I wish I could just spend my whole life drawing and becoming just really great at art. But one of the pieces of advice I had at the beginning was most artists want to spend 80% of their time creating art and 20% on the business and everything. But it needs to be flipped around. You need to spend 80% of your time on the business of selling it, becoming a better speaker, be able to present yourself, be able to understand your finances, your marketing, and then 20% on your art. So actually today's one of the 5 days, Thursday's my art day, because I spend so much time on the business. But that was so critical to understanding how marketing works, how social media works, and building myself up. And that actually helped my confidence and allows myself a lot of time to create the artwork. So that's just my little piece of advice that I got at the beginning, which speaks to what you said. Got to work on the things that you need to work on.
Yeah, absolutely. You put the work in, and for sure, like what you get out, what you put into it. And, you know, and so that kind of brings up two things, because you blended both. And, you know, doing this is no small feat. And so you've got to have influences, both business wise and what you took on to do that, and then influences in art and how you, you know, develop your style and, you know, just what you love and to sink in. So let's
Yeah.
start on the business side from what you just mentioned. We'll go the 80% here. Some influence, like heavy influences on you. Who are those people that really helped, you know, that you're like, man, that person has such a, you know, big spot in my world?
Well, I'm lucky that I'm in Anaheim, so I actually opened a gallery right beside Disneyland, so I get to but I definitely now watch Disney in a different lens of how they sell their art and market their art. But I did follow a lot of marketers. I took a lot of online classes in the beginning. Neil Patel is a digital marketer that I still to every day subscribe to his emails and watch his 5-minute videos on ideas and try to morph that into how does an art collector see my artwork. So on that end, I went to Instagram and I followed every artist I could find, and the ones that actually I would either follow them for business or for their art. And I was very conscious. Like I think Noah Fine Art does a great job marketing his brand. And then and I always subscribe to their newsletters. How are they messaging? How are they talking to people? So that's the side of the business that I'm always watching. And even today, there's I just subscribed to 2 or 3 new ones today. I did some research. I found new ones that I'm excited to see how they message, how they put their message out, and speak about their art and how I can use those skill sets.
Interesting, and good too, because you don't think, as my accountant tells me, right? It's not, you have the starving artist, and sometimes that's for a reason, because it's a business and you've got to treat it like so. And because if you don't, you're doing whatever, eating some ramen, and hopefully, you know, you might sell it. So speaking on that end of things, art influences, like who are some of the influences that you have either growing up, now, stuff that influences you, things that you find interesting, you know, as an artist?
I still, like, if you go to Instagram and you follow hashtags and you actually follow the hashtag, so I follow minimalist photography, minimalist art. I see what's going on, how they're using their color palette, and it's kind of a nice plethora of various creatives. So I'm not just following one creative, I'm actually following a tag that I like, and I'm constantly updating my tags, which one I'm following. So I get a lot of inspirations and something, and use your save and save your archive. So I do take that broader sense of from minimalism. I take I follow a lot of photographers and how they do architecture, how they take a picture of a corner of a building and you're like, oh, that's a Sistine Chapel. I know what that is. Like things like that. That's what I'm always drawn to. And then how do you translate it into sports? On the sketch side, I collected a lot of comic books. So
Yes.
I have a stack of X-Men, so I'm a big fan of like Stan Lee. Scott Campbell, honestly, I used to love pinup art, so I just loved his fresh-faced girls, and a lot of my art style has translated out of that. So
Nice.
yeah.
See, I knew we had like a deeper connection, and then you just keep weaving stuff in. And yes, to the comic stuff. I love Nick Klein. I think we were throwing names out on the pre-interview. Newer guy, but like I go back to the Jim Lee, you know, when those dudes, Ramita Jr. and you know, when that was coming up, man, X-Men was the stuff. So was Spidey, McFarlane. I know it's not cliche to say. So yeah, dude, I get that. And when I see your sketch work too, I see a lot of, you know, you can see those kind of influences and stuff come through. So interesting question comes through because what I want to get into is you've got some great influences. You've been building this thing. This last year for everybody, right, has been, you can probably come up with 100 different words depending on what it is. And especially for artists, and you have a gallery that wasn't open.
No.
And so you're trying to figure all this kind of stuff out. And what I found, and this is again, like Tuesday, man, when we had that chat, I loved it. I appreciated the time with you because there was so much in it that I'm like, dude, look at this guy. And as a go-getter, like you're an entrepreneur. I look at you as an entrepreneur first, and who is doing art, right? And that is what I find most fascinating, because that's what I try to pattern myself after. And so 2 questions for you, one from the audience and then one from me. Have you considered NFL or Marvel?
I can do both right now. I did my very first licensed Super Bowl piece just a couple weeks ago. I've got every NFL mascot designed. I've actually created a nice cool print with all 25 of them into one. So I've done all the NFL mascots. I've done every NFL stadium. I am licensed with them. I have the rights to do them. It's just a lot to bite off as an artist.
Yes.
I can go so many different ways. So I almost have a twofold palette. I am licensed with DC Marvel. I can do. So I got through life. I have my own licenses, but I've also partnered with other licensees, similar to how I work with Chuck Jones. They own the license to Chuck Jones and the rights, and I do artwork for them. I have a similar arrangement with DC Marvel. I'm a big Avatar fan, so the big news about Nickelodeon getting that out, I was like, I can't even believe I haven't done Avatar, because I watch it constantly. And so yes, DC Marvel. I was playing in WWE. The world's my oyster right now. Just gotta calm down, Preston. You want to do everything. Let's just do stuff that my business partner tells me all the time. Just let's focus. Let's focus and do what people love. Let's listen to our fans and find out what is good for you. And just don't start. Don't put all the cereal in the bowl. Just pour enough for it you want to eat.
Dude, and I love that. And so you had brought up WWE, which I was laughing hilariously at, because I'm like Macho Man Randy Savage. Let's go back to the days when you'd get the little toys and it had like the extendo arms.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's another license, and this leads into the second to my question. And you and I can nerd out for a good Scott Ryder, who's our magic man behind the scenes as well. Man, we can have some time after this, but you got the Star Wars license. Now, it wouldn't be proper because we're gonna, Scott, if you can put up the image that you have on the screen right now. So Preston.
There you go. You just need to duck down a little bit, just so you're just peeking over the top, but yeah.
I'll just do this, right? Okay. So Preston, you've got the Star Wars license. Are you a Star Wars fan?
I'll answer that in 2 parts. I saw the original Star Wars, and I actually fell asleep. I was 4 years old, and I remember seeing it, the original Star Wars. I saw all of them. I was a gung-ho kid. And then I realized I actually don't love sci-fi, and my brother loved it. I have an older brother that loved all this stuff, and then, I tagged along. So I kind of realized later in life, I was like, I love sports and baseball, but I saw it. I played with the Kenner toys, but I wasn't a big fan. And then most recently, one of my newest employees, who became a very close friend of mine, he was like, you gotta watch Clone Wars and Rebels, and you gotta now. So I started watching all of the Dave Filoni animations. And I got more excited to see the new Clone Wars and all those things come out than the movies coming out. So I am not a big fan of the movie series. I am a huge fan of Dave Filoni and what he has done. And now with him and Jon Favreau did The Mandalorian. So now I think everybody is now becoming what I went through, which is loving Filoni's world.
So this is only, I know you got, bring it out, because
I the very first piece, they were like, why are you doing the Rebels? And I'm like, I'm doing the Rebels crew. I'm doing a print with the Rebels crew.
I loved it. I saw that actually before. I don't even remember where I saw it. I didn't realize it was you until we had a talk on Tuesday. I was like, whoop! I'm like, that's the guy who did it. Yeah, like let's get the basically the biggest money maker on planet Earth, bigger than, even though Mickey has ears, nobody has ears like Grogu. Go ahead, Scott, pull that one up. You've already got it on the preview screen. Just take it full screen. So, you had mentioned
right at the bottom there,
right? And I love it. Well, it's what I loved about your Boba Fett print too. And like I said, your color choices, your composition stuff. I love the fact that I have so much space above me. I don't know why, but I love the negative space above me. And you pulled off the character beautifully. And we have all of these, by the way, available at chuckjonescatalog.com with the link. You can see, there it is, Preston -limited -edition -art.
Yeah.
And I know I'm picking up this one in the Boba Fett one. And so I went to, and we're going to show some of your sketches here in a minute also, but you know, you get into something like Star Wars and how they're opening things up, and good night did you get in at what I would consider kind of the right time, because
Exactly.
it's to me, and I would agree with you, I like 7, I enjoy it a lot. I hate 8. I don't, and we're not going to get into that right now because this isn't about me not liking 8. And then, right, yeah, okay, see, I knew we were on that page. And then 9 tried to rewrite 8. All right, not a bad job, but you just tried to put lipstick on a pig and it's not going to work. So you get into Mandalorian and that storyline, and I love Filoni and Favreau. I sincerely hope they have the reins right now to everything, especially with what they're doing, because man, are you going to have a field day with artwork coming out. And we've got some of this stuff right now. I want to show the Ahsoka sketch. So we got it. Unless do you have it?
I have the original here, which you could bring up too. So that's.
No, we're going to show the original right now. So there's your original Ahsoka. Dude, when she showed up in season 2, and if you haven't watched it yet, I don't care if I'm spoiling it because you should have watched it by now. I was going crazy because I loved her in Filoni's series, right? I thought like that whole storyline wove really well.
It's her character. It's his character. That's his baby. Everybody else was Lucas from the films, but this is his. Ahsoka's his.
Well, and you know, you take that from, and for those who don't know, Dave Filoni is considered Lucas version 2, right? That knowledgeable, that into the storylines. That's why things weave so well, you know, and you take the filmmaking and the producing of Jon Favreau, you mix those two together and we've got what we got now.
Yeah.
So, you know, a character like Ahsoka, which I love your sketch, and that's the original. So I'd rather see the original than it on screen. So that is on, we have that, right? Yeah, we do. We have that available. And then we've got the prints that you have. What is it about? Like, you mentioned that you have to like narrow things down. Do you have to do that with Star Wars where you're like, I can't, there's so many, you're writing down all the stuff that you want to do because that's how many ideas are coming out.
So when you license with sports, all they care is my logo being used right? Like that's pretty much all they care about. A lot of times, like, I don't get what you're doing, but you know, like, why aren't you showing the whole stadium? Like, I'm just like, they're not art fans. They're just making sure their marks are well used and their logos are well done. So it was actually kind of easy, but then going into, actually the first one was going through Chuck Jones and then going through Lucas. They critique art. They want to know, they want to make sure that it's on brand and that the style is right. So, so this piece itself, the lightsabers are not green.
Right.
I didn't know that, but this was during Rebels, and this is the scene in Malachor where she finally figures out that it's Anakin, is Darth Vader, and yeah, she has white lightsabers. So they're like, nope. Why is her nose so big? Nope. Like it was a big process. It was quite a process. This Wonder Woman, which we talked about DC. This Wonder Woman I did. They're like, yeah, no, not at all. They don't care I spent how many hours I spent. There's like, no, it looks too like, Disney. Yeah, no.
Yeah, they're like, try again, and you're like, but no, right? Try again. Okay, just to go to show you putting the work in, right? And all that you have to go through to like bring out, especially in your style, because you have a style to it. And you're like, no, but this is my style. Try again. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, Scott Campbell can just do his own stuff. Why can't? I was like, no, right? It doesn't work that way. I'm starting at the beginning, so I'll put in the hours. I have 4 of these that I've drawn that I've started over again. And I'll put in the hours to do it because I wanted
it. Absolutely, man. Well, and it shows. And what I wanted to show too is, Scott, can you show the what we have on the Looney Tunes? I'm looking on my other screen with Daffy in the penalty box, Bugs, the Bugs sketch with the bubble gum, and then we've got Marvin World Series. So we've got sketches. All of this stuff available, as you can see on the link below. And what I wanted to tell everybody too is there's a sketch card. I love this one, by the way. I love this. It is so freaking brilliant. If you know Stan Lee and Spider-Man is his baby and all of the stuff that gets woven into that, dude, when I saw this I went to the site as we were putting the stuff up, and I saw this. Do you have the original?
No, no, I don't have the original. I wanted to talk a bit about the tribute sketches that I do. So part of me as an artist, learning to be an artist, I guess, and just getting back into the sketch and getting my hand moving. When I think the first piece was when Yogi Berra died. And I did a sketch, and I was like, hey, how do you connect your heart and put it into your hands? And I started doing more and more of that. So just a quick show, like this was the Arnold Palmer passed away. So these are done, like I try to do them within the hour of learning of their passing, and just try to encapsulate into a minimalist form that that represents everything that we as a fan would connect to. So that's what the Stan Lee was done. This was within an hour of him passing away. This was Mike Ilitch, who was the owner of the Little Caesars and the Detroit Red Wings. This was the Kobe piece that I did a couple hours after I learned of his passing. And then we lost a lot of players as Tommy Lasorda with his passing. So that's where those comes from. That's it's kind of it's almost, you guys are actually like guinea pigs in my exercise of emoting emotion, just how to dump out everything that you're feeling at that moment into a piece of paper. So that's where those pieces, and I think I love them. I just find that I really, they mean a lot to me.
Well, you can tell that, and I didn't know that you did them within, like, literally within hours of hearing the news. And I think we have some of that stuff, don't we? Like, we have a whole bunch of originals on that. By the way, we can be the dumping ground anytime you want.
Yeah, okay, good.
And when I saw the Stan Lee piece, because I saw that one first on what you had kind of drawn out in the sketches, and then I saw the Kobe one with the hoop.
Oh yeah, the hoop was the one that actually,
yeah. And man, I'm like that brings me back to the whole thing of your design sense and boiling down to the purest element, right? And that's what I think you capture beautifully, is you capture the purest element of the thing, and you do it so simply. And that the 24 piece, which we have, also Moments in Sports, and then that Stan Lee tribute, it's freaking brilliant, man. Loved them. And you sit there, and I don't need to see a whole bunch of everything all over the place, because that really brings it home. So
there are guys that can do a Kobe mural, and there's so many here in LA. People can draw him great, and I'm so impressed by those people that can draw so with such accuracy. And I said this before, with such accuracy, with a great palette, but that's just not what I'm doing. I don't really want to draw. I'll let them do that. I want to create that, this is what connects me to that moment.
Well, and that's what, that's art, right? It's something emotional, and it's something you're putting into it, and you can totally tell when you see that final piece. So I gotta ask you,
Okay.
as we've already blown through an hour, if you can believe
Whoa.
that. That's what I said. I looked at I get little notes on the clock, and I was like, okay. I'm like, but there's so much more. So maybe we'll have to do like a round 2 of this, because there's more into the Star Wars thing. There's more like what you have going on with Schitt's Creek, which I can say, SCHITTS. I didn't swear. Don't bleep me. This is for kids too. So you've got more coming in. What I wanted to, highlight a little bit is, in this last year, in all the artwork that you're creating, we have some, like, I love the sketch. I'm looking at like a side thing here on your original, and it's the view down, and everybody knows this view. Scott, can you go to 15A, please? It's this view of Wile E. Coyote's. It's basically his view every time.
Yes, every time.
Every time. And then I wanted to go through and go to 18, if you could, please. And
I have a lot of styles, don't I?
You do, but it's awesome. Dude, I love this. The hairpins.
The hairpins.
That's it. It's from that cartoon, and you remember that because Chuck was brilliant, and everything that him and his team put in, and that moment, I thought you captured this so awesome. And then I just flat out love the colors. You get that magenta-ish, fuchsia, whatever, blending with teal turquoise and white, gray, and black, and done. I mean, it's such a visually appealing combination, and then what you put together with the composition, and it just flows left to right, and I love that. I wanted to show 19. Scott, can you show 19? Yeah.
Yes, tells a story.
Dude, every time. And you know what's going to happen because it's not landed on Roadrunner. So these are all up and available on chuckjonescatalog.com. And so I wanted to continue to highlight some of like these pieces that you put in, and then not only the design, but just the execution of it. And you continue to boil this thing down to like the hilarious moments. I love this one. I think we have like Daffy seems to me like he would be in the penalty box more than pretty much any other. Maybe Taz, right? But
yeah,
for the most part, it's going to be Daffy.
So I believe Chuck Jones tells great stories, and I like funny stories, and we almost remember the stories more hilariously than we even could. Like as a kid, we're like, oh man, that was funny. So that was really one of my first forays into telling a complete story in one photo, where Daffy's, I got punched in the face. That was not my penalty. Why am I in here? Yes. Can you not see what happened? Like that was to me a hockey story. And yeah, it had to have been Daffy. It just has to be Daffy.
It does. Well, and I love Chuck's, the Chuckism of like everybody wants to be Bugs, really, but they're really Daffy. Like deep down, if you really examine yourself, you're kind of more Daffy Duck than you are Bugs Bunny. One of the issues with licensing on though is
I had to. They want every team represented. That's how the leagues want it. So I came up with the concept, which I call Masterworks, where I illustrate it to this point. And then fans can reach out and say, look, I want this jersey I'm a fan of the Cubs. I want this jersey. I want the Blackhawks, and then that gives me an opportunity to create these originals from the Masterworks. And I think that helps address, some of the MLB issues, but allow me to speak to every fan base.
Well, I think we've got the gift that you put up.
Yes.
Which illustrates this beautifully of exactly how you pull this off, which I think is awesome. I wanted to show too, as we blend these, and you do stuff on baseballs. I believe we have some of these.
Yeah.
On site. So can we show well, you have it. All right, there's one, but I think
there's a Little Mermaid.
Little Mermaid. And then let's see yours.
So here's Clark the Cub.
Nice.
And I sort of do mascots. So these are hand painted one of ones. If you do collect them, there's a little number that tells how many of these I've drawn. So I've drawn Mr. Met twice now. This was another Ariel. I have a lot of Little Mermaids in my collection. That's number 7. So this is a fun medium to do. Again, this is just sort of creatively looking at both sports and pop culture together, and look at, hey, what do people collect? And every time I go to places, any baseball related place, they have bobbleheads and people have walls of baseballs signed, and so that's why I thought, if they're going to keep baseballs in cases, then I want to draw them. So yes. That's pretty cool.
That is awesome. I've got one guy that I know and has a wall full of baseballs in cases, and I'm like, good night. I mean, it's cool to look at because the display. So why not use it as a medium? Which to me, the way you pick canvases, why not do a baseball?
Yeah. It was just learning to paint on it. I don't do a lot of acrylics, so it was just a new experience for me, and that's also fun for me too. You guys are my guinea pigs. I get to learn how to do this stuff and bring joy to people's faces. As I'm like, how do you mix this stuff? So it's fun.
Acrylics, the paint that dries faster than you need it to. So frustrating, but that's okay. So I wanted to say too, as we're kind of pulling this all together, we've got an example. Scott, if you can go ahead and take that. So with every purchase over $200, Preston will do a sketch on a sketch card. We've done these with Jerry Eisenberg and others. And so any purchase over $200, he will do a sketch for you on the sketch card and then send it to you, which is an awesome gift. And
I will say, if you have a team specific if you want to say, hey, I want Preston to do something Cubs related, or I want something Dodger related, just leave that note and I'll try to incorporate that into it, because I'm a big sports guy.
Sweet. All right. So even bigger bonus. I've got 2 things. One question from the audience, and that's, where do you see yourself in a few years? Sports, film, pop culture, all of it? D, all of the above?
It's kind of D, all of the above. I'm still trying to grow these 2 pillars as a sketch artist, and for the brands like Looney Tunes and and Disney, how do I create something new that hasn't been seen before? And then sports, how to continue to teach sports fans that art's a very important part of the culture. I always say the jocks in high school and the art fans in high school never mixed together. But I was that guy. I was in art class and I was the artist and the sports guy. So how do you mix that together and I'm almost always educating the sports fan how art's so important to have something that represents you on your wall that means so much to you.
Absolutely. Well, and you see, so many times with people that might have a poster up of their team or something, and great, nothing wrong with that. But then you get a piece of art that connects with you in that way, which is the whole point of art, is to connect you. And I think you do that brilliantly with the images that you put together, which leads me to my second question. And this is, we talked about this on Tuesday. Do you have, and you do, a favorite moment in sports? Like something, like I can tell you what mine is, but nobody cares. I want to know what yours is. What is your quintessential?
I don't remember exactly how I answered you, but
you have to do two things. There was two.
There was two things. There was I became a baseball fan when the Blue Jays won in '92 and '93. Obviously, growing up in Canada, I was a huge hockey fan, but I started to slowly the Blue Jays are on. I'm gonna flip over, and I started watching more and more Blue Jay games. And then when they won, I think I really became a huge fan because of that. And then now that I'm in baseball and I got access to do a lot of cool things, that story of going to the World Series Game 7 means everything to me. Just the energy and the crowd. So I bring my sketchbook with me everywhere I go, to every ballpark, and I always draw an illustration at the ballpark. So I get to just soak in the emotion from that game and just draw it out. And being at the World Series and watching that the curse get broken, and it still brings a tear to my eye because the people in front of me were literally praying to their dad and saying, my God, Dad won. We won it. That's just unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
And we've got a couple of pictures from you at the stadium sketching. So can we take that? There we go.
That was the World Series, yes, in Progressive Field.
So I love that. I love the fact that you were there. I'll live through you in that moment because I watched it on TV, and which was fine. And I just remember going nuts. And there you go.
Yeah, that aerial I think I had here. So part of the whole Ballpark Princess was I started doing these drawings, and these kids would come and watch me draw while they're watching the game. I would give them drawings. So I normally give them out for free at the ballpark. So if you ever meet me at a ballpark, you'll probably get a free drawing from me. And people call me and try to claim these drawings that I do at the ballpark. But yeah, no, the greatest moment, I mean, just being able to witness that is better than, memories are better than things, right?
Absolutely. Well, and you had mentioned, because what I wanted to show too is, can you get the Olympic torch that expands and contracts?
Yeah. That was people that were wondering what this was.
So you had mentioned on Tuesday, like the 1984 Olympics was something that had an impact on you.
I did mention that, right?
Did. So that's why I wanted to mention this.
So I'm a huge Olympic nut. And it wasn't actually really until that conversation we had that it's like, wow, a second. I was watching that summer, 84, Canada won the most goals they ever won, which was 10. And me and my brother would just sit there with a sketchbook for 8 hours a day for 16 straight days, and we would just be sketching the whole summer, whatever we saw on the screen, like logos, mascots, stadiums, players, people, events, and I just realized now that I draw what I feel all the time. I see a great movie or see a great event, I just want to just get it out of me and just draw it. So it's sort of a realization that I'm an artist, I guess.
Yes,
I draw what I see, and the Olympics was that. Right. The 84 Olympics was that. So that since then I try not to collect too many things, but I do collect Olympic torches. So this is that day when everything popped up and we were like, oh my goodness, this is all the media was going crazy over the Minimalist ballparks. One of the first things I got was this Olympic torch. And I actually kind of buy an Olympic torch every time something big in my career happens and we're doing really well. I'd be on eBay trying to buy a torch.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Really?
When we popped on tonight and we're doing like the test before we go live, and I'm like, what is that? That's an Olympic torch. How many do you have? And I'm like, good night, those are sweet.
I got like 9 of them now. A weird addiction. People are like, what's that baseball bat there? I was like, this is not a baseball bat. This was actually, I think, ran into, I would love to know who ran with this because it is burnt at the top. But,
right?
Yeah.
So I love it. I think I collect oddities as well. I've got a helmet collection, like you saw the Boba Fett. I can go Iron Man, we go around the world. But your Olympic torch thing is way cooler than my helmet collection. And when I saw those, the one back there, and you just kept kind of popping them out, I was like, that is something.
But they're art too, right? These things are art. They represent everything about that Olympics, but just seeing it. So I guess it does play into what I do.
It's a sculpture. It's like a sculpture piece. And so I love that. We've got, good night, we're already out of time. So here's what I wanted to do. Wanted to capture one more time. We do have the sketch card. So purchase $200 because we had a question come in. If I get a sketch with purchase, yes, you can. Do they request? Do you a team they pop on, or Screaming Baseball or something like that? How do you work?
It was a team. I will take some direction. I'll like some creative control over, but I'll take a direction. If you particularly want a mascot or a character, I'll definitely toss that down.
All right. Well, I'm not going to hold you to too much. We'll say mainly Preston's influence on what
team. Give me a team, and I'll start. Let me creatively work with the team.
There you go. All right. So give Preston a team, and he'll wrap that around. And then everything is on the ChuckJonesCatalog.com site. You can see everything that's available for purchase there. We've shown a lot of images here. There's some more in additional there. Originals plus prints. Amazing stuff. So as we kind of wrap this in this, I want to go like Preston round 2. So we'll pick another time. Maybe when you're out here and we do the show live in front of one thing. And
we should do it at the ballpark.
Yes. I can get a minor league team. We can go here. We can do a show, and they have Wi-Fi, so we'd be all right. We can broadcast.
That would be amazing.
All right, and I got some gear coming out your way too. So Preston, we've been doing these Creativeside chats now since May of last year, which is hard to believe after COVID and everything's hit, and you're doing a lot of stuff virtually. Out. Right, and since then you didn't sit there on your hands, and you didn't, it wasn't kind of trying to figure some stuff out or whatever. You've been putting the work in, and so I have so much respect for that and getting to know you. I've only gotten to know you for a handful of hours here in 1 week from not knowing you at all, and you inspired me in several different areas, both in business and in art, just by your own story and what you have done, are doing, how you continue to do things. And I hope that people in our audience, both on Facebook and in Zoom, and whoever watches this on YouTube afterwards, I'm sure they're going to get that from it. And it lends to the respect that I have for you and how quickly that formed. You're a genuine guy. You're super humble about stuff. You're just a regular guy that's doing some really awesome things and puts all the work into it, and then blesses and benefits everybody else. And I have so much respect for that. And so I look very much forward to the days of more in-person stuff. I very much look forward to meeting you in person as well, and then we can nerd out about a whole bunch of other things.
We will absolutely do that. Come out to or we can do it at the gallery when you're able to travel. But thank you so much for those kind words. It's I think you summed up a lot of the difficulty that I had to go through, and I really do. It does appreciate to hear it from another voice that you like. That paid off. Those ramen noodle nights with the sketchbook paid off.
Right. Well, you think about it, and you made the leap. You got an opportunity, which was the MLB thing, right? You put the money in that you didn't know that you were going to get back. It wasn't what you thought it would be the first day. You had no idea. And if you wouldn't have taken that opportunity, if you wouldn't have launched from there, you wouldn't be where you're at now. So, what I loved about what you were saying as well too is you're not just shotgunning things. You do your homework, you do your research, you take a calculated risk, right? But you do take a risk.
Yes.
and it's paying off. So it's a blessing to have you a part of the whole Chuck Jones family, man, and what you're creating. I love the pieces sincerely from a design and art aspect. You grip both of my loves, you know, in that creative realm. And I think you just do a wonderful job. And we're
Well,
very much looking.
I mean, being part of the Chuck Jones is such an honor. Like it's such a, like, I just can't even express how happy I am for every time I get emails or these kind of opportunities. So thank you.
Absolutely, man. We'll tell you what, to our Facebook audience, thank you so much for joining us for this. For our Zoom audience, thank you guys so much for coming in, for the questions that you gave for Preston, and just for this creative community, Creativeside chat as we march forward, and looking forward to opening day. So Preston, have a wonderful evening, sir, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Peace.
Peace. Later, buddy. Have a good night, everyone.
All right. See you later.